Before we get into today's show, I wanted to provide you all with a dramatic reading. Here it goes. Today's special, it's for everyone. Today's special, come and join in the fun. With magic everywhere, a world for us to share, and friendly faces hoping that you'll want to meet us there for today's special. It's about to appear. It's about to appear. Today's special, shout it loud and clear. Today's special. In the 1980s, there weren't really a ton of choices of shows for children to watch on TV. Sure, there were Saturday morning cartoons and the Disney Channel, which I believe came out in 1983, but for the most part, there weren't a ton of choices. However, there was one choice that I am so glad that we made, and that was to watch the Canadian classic show on Nickelodeon called Today's Special. When my sister and I watched TV when we were little kids, we would often sit on the orange carpet that was in the first house that we lived in. And there was one time, and it may have been while we were watching Today's Special, for some reason I decided that my sister needed a haircut. And so, unbeknownst to her, I started cutting her hair. And that haircut resulted in her having a mullet for several years. So, I apologize for that, Becky, if you can hear me. But anyways, watching TV shows with my sister was incredibly memorable, and one of our absolute favorite shows was Today's Special. And after talking to some friends and colleagues about Today's Special, I knew I had to bump it up the list. So grab your magic hat and matching vest. Here we go. Today's Special ran for 7 seasons, or 121 episodes from 1981 to 1987. The show was produced by TV Ontario, but it was also shown in the U.S. on Nickelodeon, like I mentioned. And TV Ontario, in case you're not familiar, is essentially the Canadian equivalent to PBS. The show revolves around a department store where 2 of the 4 main characters work. Jody, one of the main characters, as I said, works at the department store. She's a woman who appears to be in her 30s. She does the window displays at the store. Each night after the store closes, she pulls Jeff out of the window and takes him to the children's department, and that's when the episode adventure begins. Jody was played by Noreen Virgin. Her first acting credit was in a long-running TV Ontario show called Polka Dot Door. That show ran for 22 years and was an educational show for children. One of the main characters was Polkaroo, which is a combination of polka dot and kangaroo. Jeff was the mannequin at the store who comes to life when someone puts on his magic hat. The magic hat origins are actually quite extensive, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. Since he spent so many years as a mannequin, he has a lot to learn about the world around him from his friends at the store. Jeff Hislop played Jeff the Mannequin. He is a very accomplished actor and dancer. He was in a Canadian production of The Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, Anne of Green Gables, and The Music Man, amongst many others. Sam is an older character on the show. He is actually a puppet who is the store's security guard. And I think Sam has probably the most detailed backstory of a puppet, as far as backstories of puppets are concerned. Sam was born in 1919. He is a retired member of the Merchant Marines. Sadly, he was widowed. He has a cat named Penelope, and he drives a Ford Model T car named Gertrude. Sam has a computer called TXL, which appeared to be an old kind of knob TV on top of what looked like an Apple IIe keyboard. He uses it to sometimes look up information and monitor the store. Most of the time, Sam is wearing a green, sort of army-looking jacket and a matching hat and red bow tie. He is often very forgetful, and sometimes his computer gets very irritated with him because she talks when he forgets stuff. Sam was played by Bob Dermer, who you will soon learn is absolutely a Canadian treasure. He got his start in TV in 1976 with a series called Read Along. This show, of course, involved puppets which are now housed at the Canadian Museum of History. The woman who designed these puppets also designed puppets for another Canadian sensation show under the umbrella tree, which will definitely be the topic of a future show. Muffy the Mouse, who's also a puppet, she lives in the store. She speaks in rhymes and often causes mischief. Her puppeteer was Nina Keogh, a third-generation puppeteer. Previously, she worked for TV Ontario and CBC Television. You can tell the family connection to puppeteering as there are several baby pictures of her posted on her personal website. And in said pictures, she is looking at a marionette clown puppet. So, clearly there was some family connection there, and clearly her families were not afraid of clowns like me and my sister are and were. She apprenticed at age 11 with her parents at CBC TV. There were a few other characters during the show's run, but those are the four main characters, so that's who we're going to focus on. In a two-part episode called Our Story, we learn how this foursome met. Sam meets Jody in a park one day. Sam had just retired from the Merchant Marines, like so many puppets do. He packed his bags, leaves the ship with his cat Penelope, and heads to a nearby park. While sitting on a bench contemplating what he will do next, he runs into Jody. They commiserate about both being at sort of a crossroads in their lives. Jody is very distraught because she has applied for a bunch of jobs but hasn't gotten any. They somehow end up looking through a newspaper together, and Jody sees a job opening for a window designer at a department store. She is very discouraged, but Sam, having known her for 2 seconds, really encourages her to go ahead and apply for the job. She then goes to the store and gets the job. She comes back and tells Sam the good news. She then goes on to say that the store is also looking to hire a night watchman, and she'd like Sam to apply for the job. Remarkably, they both end up working at the same department store. It was fate. Muffy ends up at the store as well, soon after Jody and Sam begin working there. She was living inside of someone's house, but sadly that family decided to move, so she does what any other mouse would do when they become homeless. She hops on her mouse-sized moped and heads out in the rain in search of somewhere to live. If I saw a mouse riding on a moped, driving by, I would think nothing of it. She somehow speeds into the department store where Sam and Jody now work. She gets past Sam because he's kind of not the sharpest tool in the shed. She rides into the store and ends up in the bedding department. She crashes into a bed and lands on the comforter, which oddly enough is the same exact Laura Ashley comforter that my sister had on her bed growing up. It was white with pink flowers and had green ivy on it. My sister had that on her bed for years. Jeff becomes a character in the show due to the talents of a magician named Waldo the Magnificent, who is a self-described magician extraordinaire. There's a scene where he is walking on a sidewalk singing about how great he is. He, for some reason, looks up a magic hat spell, and suddenly there's a hat on top of a fire hydrant. He says, "Hocus pocus, alamagocus," and the hat flies off of the fire hydrant. He chases the hat for several blocks. He doesn't understand why this hat flew away. The hat then flies into what appears to be some kind of storage area where various mannequin parts can be found, i.e. busts and stuff like that. The hat flies onto a mannequin who coincidentally is wearing a vest that matches the hat. Jeff comes to life momentarily before he is grabbed and taken out of the storage area by an employee and is apparently headed to the department store. He rides there in a red van, and there are various shots of the van driving with Waldo trying to catch it. The shots of the red van reminded me a lot of the intro to Who's the Boss. It turns out that Jeff was going to have a brand new life around the bend as well. You know what I'm saying? Jeff ends up in the department store with Jody, Sam, and Muffy. Waldo eventually ends up there as well and explains everything to the group. He casts an additional spell so that Jeff can be more human-like. He also explains that if Jeff ever leaves the store, he will return to being a mannequin. Waldo also said that Jeff would need to remain a mannequin during the day, but at night he could spend time with the other three characters. Jeff then goes on a dancing and singing spree, reciting the magic words that make him come alive, hocus pocus, alamagocus, And he dances around the store, showboating his excitement about his newfound special ability. But it's pretty apparent, and I'm not being sarcastic, that the gentleman that plays Jeff is a very talented dancer and singer. And yeah. The show had a very memorable introduction, and those of us who grew up watching it remember it quite well. But because it's almost 2 minutes long, I thought, why not break it down by every detail of it? Because it's just so ridiculous. So the intro starts with Jeff in the department store window at night in his classic plaid vest and matching hat. Jody, clad in a brown and orange pantsuit, pulls him out of the display window. As she is lowering him to the ground, she smiles at him almost like she was just handed a newborn baby. Her smile is just too big. She's very excited that he is being removed from the window. Next, we see Sam checking the windows and doors with his gloved hand to ensure that everything is locked and secure. And he says something along the lines of, "Well, I guess it's all locked up tight now as it should be." Dun, dun, dun. Sam then runs into Jody, who has yanked Jeff out of the display. He asks Jody if she needs some help carrying Jeff, but she assures him that she's got it. The three all go up the escalator to the children's department. Jeff is still a mannequin on the escalator at this time, and he is facing backwards, which is kind of an interesting shot. They then cut to Sam standing behind the back entrance to the children's department, which resembles kind of a subtly Bavarian house facade that's pastel in color, which is interesting. It has a purple roof and purple saloon doors and has some toys on display. Sam gives the all clear and they head in. And then Jody rests Jeff up against the counter. Muffy the Mouse, with her blonde curly hair, which kind of looks like a puppet toupee, her maroon scarf and green bracelet, comes out and says, "Hocus pocus alamagocus." Jeff then comes to life and whoa, it's like he's going to fall over. But wait, no. He spins around like the amazing dancer that he is, and he jumps into the air with excitement. He and Jody then grab hands, which there were so many times it's like, are they a couple? Because they have really good chemistry. But anyways, they hold hands and they run under the Today's Special sign. They run off into the night sky, jump into the air at the same time, and freeze. Then, all of a sudden, there is an animated picture of the four characters with a night sky backdrop. They look down and across each other, sort of like the Brady Bunch intro with the 9 square thing. An animated Muffy then pulls off Jeff's hat for some unknown reason. She's kind of a pest in the show. And she tosses it into the sky, and now it has a hole in it that never is really explained. Then, out of nowhere, Mother Goose comes across the screen. She's sitting on a goose and flying, with a rainbow trailing behind the goose. Muffy then jumps out of Sam's computer, which she seems caught off guard by, and then the Today's Special logo appears and the show begins. That was a very extensive introduction for a TV show, and as we all know, that certainly doesn't happen now. After the Today's Special logo appeared, they would tell you what the Today's Special was, and in case anybody was wondering, Today's Special has nothing to do with food. So the narrator would come on and say, "Today's special is circus. Today's special is opera. Today's special is sleep. Today's special is snow." Each episode tended to follow a relatively similar pattern. The first few minutes, a topic that was just said, i.e. today's special is opera, is presented. For example, for the Today's Special sleep episode, we learn that Jeff doesn't sleep, and the episode is focused on the characters offering their advice on how to get Jeff to sleep. Usually there were musical numbers mixed in, seemingly out of nowhere, kind of like a stage show. That's sort of the setup of the show, is they would kind of burst into song randomly. As an example, in one episode, Jeff is learning to juggle, and no one wants to watch him do it. You know, Sam and Muffy and Jody are all too busy to watch that. So he randomly bursts into a song about how they don't really pay attention to him anymore and they don't care, which is comical. In many episodes, there is a several-minute dance break where Jeff shows off his impressive dancing skills, i.e. around Christmas trees or other mannequins or areas of the department store. Sometimes there would be a child reading a book out loud, sort of like reading Rainbow. Often there were educational excerpts. For example, there's an episode called Hats, and a picture would appear with 4 different hats on it, and the narrator would come in and say something like, "You see a picture of 4 different hats. Which one is different? Yes, it's the one with the purple feather, because the other hats do not have purple feathers. Can you point to the hat that is different? Good job. There was also often live-action clips, i.e. showing a farm and how the animals sleep, or maybe Jody and Sam visiting a radio station and learning how recording works. Another segment involved the narrator describing something that a mime is doing. As an example, My, it sure is a busy night for cleaning. First Max, and now the mime lady. I see a rag and a spray cleaner. What do you suppose she is cleaning? A window? It might be a window. I'm sure it's a window. The mime then grabs a ladder and, in mime fashion, hits an imaginary window and it shatters. Whoops, it was a window, she says. Mimes in the 80s, what a wonderful combination. There's also some segments of nursery rhymes being narrated by Muffy. Typically, I think all of those rhymed. And then sometimes the narrator would recap the show. So in doing my research for the show, initially I thought that the Today Special episode was going to be about 5 minutes long, but I soon found out that there was a ton of information out there about Today's Special, which just got me really excited. And again, that's why I needed to bump this show up the list, because I just got really excited when I was looking up the information, almost too excited. There's a lot of other things I should have been doing, but I just kept focusing my efforts on researching and writing down notes about Today's Special. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, Today's Special ran for an incredible 7 seasons. They did a tour, I think it was just in Canada, and it was called Today's Special Live, and they would do autograph signings, which I would love to have that. If you go online, you can actually see a performance of Today's Special live on YouTube, and it's actually pretty high quality. A lot of the episodes that are uploaded of the show on YouTube are kind of like VHS quality, but I think somebody was able to enhance this or something, so it's really good quality. And the theater is packed. It is packed. There are tons of kids, parents, grandparents, you name it. Every seat is filled. And you can tell the kids are so excited when they see the characters, and they participate when they're encouraged to do so. Even Waldo the Magnificent made an appearance. And often during this stage performance, the actors are really singing and really dancing. And I know I've said this before, but Jeff and Noreen are extremely talented. Extremely talented. The 2 puppets, Jeff, Jody, and Waldo, all perform the theme song to Today's Special. And if I was alone when I was watching that, I'm pretty sure I would have been in the fetal position crying silently to myself, saying that Today's Special really was special. Watching that reminded me of why my sister and I loved that show so much, because it really was so unique and so special, and the characters were so charismatic and so talented that now I kind of saw myself in those kids' eyes and remembered why I liked that show, even though kind of in my head going into this, I thought this was going to be kind of corny. That show, pun intended, was pretty special. Today's Special won a Gemini Award, and that's sort of the equivalent of the Emmys in the United States. The show was set in a department store that was based off of an actual department store chain called Simpsons, which was in Canada, in Ontario. Many scenes were actually filmed there after hours. Another fun fact is I'm pretty sure Sam is the only puppet in history to suffer from severe hat hair. If you're ever able to watch an episode where he takes his hat off, the flatness of his hair in the spot where there should be a hat is kind of disturbing and bizarre. All of the characters' outfits pretty much stay the same throughout the show's run, except for Jody, who I believe had 3 different incarnations of her pantsuit. 2 are long-sleeved and 1 is short-sleeved. Sharon, Lois, and Bram made several appearances on the show. They went on to have the Elephant Show, skidamarinky-dinky-dink, skidamarinky-doo. Yeah, you're on it multiple times. There was a Today's Special album released on both record and cassette tape. It was nominated for a Juno Award, which is kind of like our Grammys, but unfortunately they lost. Nina, who was a puppeteer for Muffy, attended the Junos that year, and she sat next to Katie Lang and right behind Tina Turner. Unbelievable. In addition to the Today's Special album, there was also Today's Special sweatshirts and puzzles that you could buy. The first year of the show, the cast and crew got Today's Special watches. The last year of the show's run, they got silk baseball jackets with the Today's Special logo on the back. And in case you have forgotten, Americans really had quite the obsession with mannequins in the 80s. 1987 saw the release of Mannequin, starring Andrew McCarthy and Kim Cattrall, which won an Academy Award for the Best Song, as it should have. And if you remember, the song Nothing Can Stop Us Now by Starship was outstanding. Mannequin 2 was released in 1991, but we all know that wasn't nearly as good. Noreen Virgin, who played Jodie, would go on to have many other acting credits, including Garbage Pail Kids, Yikes, Night Heat, and a movie, Murder in Space. She has a pretty extensive list of her acting credits on her LinkedIn page. She is the great niece of an escaped slave named Thomas John Holland, who came to Maryland via the Underground Railroad. Perhaps inspired by that, following Today's Special, she became a pretty notable writer, writing about African Americans in Canadian and U.S. history. Later, she would work in broadcasting, and she serves on the board of directors for Phoenix Place, which serves women and children who have survived domestic violence. I mean, I knew I liked her anyways, but wow, that's pretty impressive. Jeff Hislop, he starred in The Magic of Aladdin in 1989. He has also done theater workshops for children and was involved with the production of The Producers. He has also produced his own stage shows. He is still often recognized, at least in Canada, for being Jeff the Mannequin. And he looks pretty much the same. He just has white hair, and I think his Canadian accent has gotten thicker, which I don't know how that's possible, but apparently it did. Bob Dermer continued to have a very successful career in puppeteering and voiceover work. He was the voice of Grumpy Bear in Care Bears, which, again, that will be the subject of a future show for sure. He was actually almost killed in a car accident and sustained many injuries, including losing one of his eyes. And in some pictures, you can see of him online for a time he has an eye patch on. He was unfortunately able to work for some time. He made a cameo in the Santa Claus movie in 1994, but he retired officially in 2001. And Nina Keough, who was the puppeteer for Muffy, I think has the most interesting and kind of hilarious post Today's Special career. She continued to work in television and puppeteering following the show, of course, because, third generation / clown marionettes, you got to keep going. But in 2000, she decided to shift to part-time so she could, quote, jiggle the dollies, whatever that means. I'm not quite sure, but whatever. She wanted to jiggle the dollies. Don't we all? She actually has a website. I think it's ninakeough.com. And on her website, there's a section called I Can Be Bought, which I think is tongue-in-cheek, but just kind of funny. So with the I Can Be Bought section, she lists some information about stuff that she does. So she has workshops on how to build puppets. She does adult shows and can do roasts with the help of puppets. She also performs stand-up with her puppets. She has one puppet that you can see a picture of that looks like an elderly woman who apparently is a therapist, and she is holding a fabric cigarette. You can also purchase her artwork on her site. I think she's a painter. She's done several interviews lately, and she did a PSA recently with Muffy about COVID-19 and wearing a mask and washing her hands and stuff like that. So she dusted off the old, puppet and did a little PSA. Pretty creative. I hope you have enjoyed this deep dive, maybe too deep of a dive, into the Canadian classic Today's Special, a TV show that epitomizes me and my sister's childhood. What I thought was going to be sort of a cheesy look back and maybe just be a few minutes of a show ended up being a lot more than that, and I kind of remembered why that show meant so much to me as a child, and it was a lot of fun to research and look at old footage. It was a blast. You can watch pretty much all episodes of Today's Special on YouTube. TV Ontario has a YouTube channel. You can find many interviews with the cast from over the years on YouTube as well. There is a Today's Special Facebook page, which I believe is run by Nina. And that's where I learned a lot of information about the show that I wasn't aware of. If you are enjoying the Pop Culture Retrospective podcast, please consider rating it on Apple Podcasts or whatever application you use, if they have a rating system. That really helps the show a lot. Please also tell your friends and family about it as well if you are enjoying the show. And I wanted to make sure to say thank you to everybody for all of your kind thoughts and feedback about the show. It has really meant a lot. I hope you'll join me for my next show where we will be discussing Nintendo. For now, though, be kind, be safe, and hold on to your memories.